Hi and welcome, my name is Lawrence Baker and this video is going to be about image sizing in Photoshop. I'm going to do three things. I'm going to size for the web, I'm going to size for print, but I'm going to make one smaller than the current size and one larger. There are four ways to resize in Photoshop. The obvious one is image size. You can make that box larger and smaller, by the way. Cancel. The second one is not so obvious, but the crop tool can actually do an image size. If you come up here, you can see it can do ratio and also width, height and resolution. And it can be a quick way of getting an image out for the web, so to speak, because you can actually change the PPI here to 72. When you come to the image size dialog box, mucking around with the PPI will cause you a problem. And I will show you that in a minute. But basically, you can do a resize here. The other one is image canvas size. And that's another quick and dirty way of resizing images if you have a lot of images as well. I've never personally used it that way. Cancel. The final one, file, print. In the printer dialog box, you can change the image size. I'm not talking about scale to fit media here. I'm talking about changing the size completely. Not recommended because Photoshop is a far better resizer than the print dialog box. Let's go cancel on that. So let's get one myth out of the way straight away, that PPI of an image matters to a screen. The only thing that matters is the size of the image. End of. And the PPI of a screen matters, so the pixel density of a screen does matter. So if you had an image of a given size, every time you put it onto a screen that was going up in pixel density, the image would get smaller. So it does matter, the PPI of a screen. PPI in this context is about the printer. What you're saying to a printer, please represent in 1 inch, let's say, 300 pixels. And it's a representation, is the correct word, because there's not a one-to-one relationship between one dot and one pixel. End of. Now, there is a relationship, of course, and that's all done through the RIP, Raster Image Processor, which turns your pixels into dots or a spray of ink. Dots is relevant to the commercial printing world because they use half-tone dots. So that is relevant, but it could be several hundred dots to make one pixel. That's just a rough example. PPI here in Photoshop is only for print. So let's go and pick a preset I've got here. I've just set up 2048 by 1024 pixels at 1 PPI. Click it. Notice here you can see the 1 PPI. Not bothered about the crop. Commit it. Command 1, so that's actual size on screen. Come here, 2048 by 1024 at 1 PPI. Simple as that. F12 to revert to the previous saved copy. File revert if you can't remember that keyboard shortcut. The next preset I've got is 2048 by 1024, same pixel dimensions, 300 PPI. Notice the 300 there, tick it. Command 1 just to check it's at the actual size on screen. Click here, 2048, 1024, 300 pixels. The image is the same size on screen. That's really important. Now you've seen it proved, it's still difficult to get into your head sometimes. What resolution is all about as far as image editing software is concerned is about size. In fact, for printing and for screen, it's all about size. The image size dialog box cannot judge the quality of your pixels. It doesn't matter. All it cares about is the size of the image in pixel dimensions. Let's have a scenario where I want to get a 2048 by 1024 image for the web. And I'm going to use the image size dialog box. First, I'm going to revert F12. Now I'm going to duplicate this image duplicate, because that's always good practice if you're going to resize something, because if you close down and save, you've lost your original image. And it's just good practice. So duplicate, and I'm going to call it 2048 by 1024. Put web actually, that'll do. Okay, so I've got my duplicate image. Now what you need to do, forget about this resizing thing here with the crop tool, go up to ratio and put the final measurements you want in. So it's just, just enter, whether it's inches or picas or whatever, just enter them in here to get the ratio right. Don't try and think of the lowest divisible number. Let Photoshop do it. So 2048 by 1024. So it's not much different to my current crop. I'm just going to accept it. So it's done a crop. Obviously, it's changed the image. The size has got smaller, slightly. I'm not worried about anything else. All I'm worried about is the aspect ratio. Image size. We need to be on pixels, 2048, and then it automatically updates the height. If you untick this, you can break the aspect ratio of the image. I don't recommend that, but it's there if you want to. Also here, actually, you can pick, let's say, inches, press the shift key, and it will change to inches. That's the only way you can make them different. Normally, if it's pixels and you change to inches, let's say, it changes both. Let's put it back to pixels. So that's a little top tip there. Now the resolution, if I start playing around with that, it's going to change that size. So don't touch the resolution. Unfortunately, it's at 300, you might say, but it doesn't matter to a screen at all. Now, if you're handing it off to someone who's going to put it on the web, they might get confused and think, why is it 300 ppi? Shouldn't it be 72? This doesn't affect quality as far as the screen goes. It's only about size. So if you do try and put 72 in there, it's going to resize the image. You can't do that. You're going to have to stick with it for the web. Now, with that crop tool, notice I could actually put 72 in if I wanted to. And that is another way it makes you feel safe. But, look, 300, it doesn't matter for a screen. I will point out a few other things here. It was 52 megabytes. It should be MB. I've gone down to 12. They're the dimensions. You can choose other dimensions if you want to, other measurement systems. Fit to customs. Obviously, I've done a custom fit. I can use presets here. I'll show you auto resolution in a minute. Presets are quite good, but you then will be stuck with the automatic resizing. Now, there's nothing wrong with it, but I prefer to pick my own, and I will point out the difference between them in a minute. Now, resampling is also called interpolation. And resampling means you're either throwing pixels away when you make it smaller or adding pixels in. So there's going to be some degradation of your image. It's inevitable. So there's different ways of doing this resample, and automatic is fine most of the time. But if you're going out to print, I definitely like to pick my own interpolation method. So what it really does is every time you resample, you're rewriting every single pixel in that image. Downsampling is less destructive than upsampling. And they're the proper words to use, downsample and upsample. Upsample, making the image larger. You're going to have to add pixels in. You're pulling the pixels apart and infilling them, so to speak. When you're downsampling, you're throwing the pixels away. Now, obviously, downsampling is better because it keeps the pixels it wants and gets rid of the rest. So there's more degradation when you go up. So be aware of that. So it is a destructive process. And if you can avoid it, this resampling or interpolation, try and avoid it by scanning at the right size. Now, if you want a certain size of print from a digital camera, if your digital camera doesn't fit that ratio, it's usually 4:3, then you're probably stuffed and you're going to have to resample anyway. So this is all about the web, so I don't care about the resolution. I think that's most of it covered, really. And when I come to print, I will show you auto resolution. Forget about the PPI, it doesn't matter. Bang. So my image now, I'll Command 1 to make sure it's at the actual size. That is view. Command 1 is 100% view. So that's the actual size of that image on my screen. So that's the PPI thing, see? The PPI of my screen is quite high. It's 218 PPI. Are you telling me that a 72 PPI image is going to look different on it? No, it won't. It's the PPI of my screen that counts. How I see it, anyway. Or how you see it as well. So there's my image. I've got it ready. I would probably, I'm almost definitely, if you resize, you sharpen. And I'll probably do a very quick one, smart sharpen. If I'm not going out to print, I'll just do a quick smart sharpen on default, go OK. And what I'll probably do now is go File, Export, Export As. The sizes are there. Metadata is entirely up to you. Convert to sRGB, screen red, green and blue. Yes, keep it ticked. If you don't, you'll have all sorts of problems. Every screen in the world, I'll put my hand on my heart here, can read sRGB. Simple as that. Don't embed the color profile because browsers cannot read color profiles at the moment. So I would just go export all and get rid of it. Across here, you can have 2 times, 3 times, etc. And that's all about high density pixel screens again. But that's for web designers, really. We're just putting one image out. Also, I will point out here, you have this here now, where you can click on this and share it to Facebook. That's the original size there. You could even make it smaller without going for this process at all. But I'm being fussy and showing you how I would do it. So let's get rid of that. I don't need it anymore. Command and Control W and go, don't crop and don't save. Here's my image, Command 0 to fit on screen. I know this is the original image. It's now 4272 pixels by 2403, 14.24 inches by 8.01 inches at 300 ppi. Now I want a print of 20 by 24. I'm going to have to make this image larger, but first I need to crop to that aspect ratio. Now you could argue I could do all this from the crop tool. What I didn't mention was the crop tool will do automatic interpolation or automatic resampling. So I've got no choice. If I was going out to print, I always want to choose the interpolation. Whilst I'm here, quickly, Photoshop preferences, technology previews, make sure you've got enable, preserve, details, 2.0 upscale on, because it's a brilliant way of upscaling an image. And I will show you that in a minute. Cancel. So I wanted 20 by 24, larger than I can currently have at 300 ppi, which is 14 by 8. So the ratio needs to be, I'll do the big figure first, 24 by 20, because I want to make it landscape. So that's what I've got. That's going to be my crop. I'm not going to play around with it. We haven't got time. Don't tick delete crop pixels because you can always go back. So that's the non-destructive way of cropping, by the way. Commit it. Image size. Image size. All you need to do is make sure it's on inches here. And then go 20 or 24 actually. Make sure, if you've done landscape crop, make sure you put the right measurement into the right place. If I put 20 in there, I've got 16 inches instead of 20. If I put 24 in there, I've got 19.997, which is 20 inches. So that was the crop. So you've got to be careful you put the right measurement in the right box. Now I've got the resolution at 300. Now, what you should try and do is untick resample and then put the measurements in. So 24 by 20, which is, rounding error there. Is put the resolution down to 120.167. I can't change that from anything from pixels. I cannot have pixels here. It's really all about print. Now, as I said, resampling is destructive, but try, if you can get near to the native resolution of your printer, try and do that. And the native resolution of most commercial printers is 300. So always try and give it a 300 pixel image. An Epson stylus, let's say, a photo stylus, is usually 360 ppi, the native resolution. So try and give it 360. If you don't, the printer will do its best if you're near to it. Basically, if you gave a 300 ppi printer to 90 ppi, it won't be the end of the world, but the printer will do its own interpolation, its own resampling to try and bring it up to quality. So it'll try and infill the pixels or throw away pixels. You might argue, why not give it 600 ppi? It doesn't work like that. I've never experimented that way. I always try and give the printer what it wants. And I think the laser's around 225 ppi. Try and get the image to match the native ppi or native resolution of the given printer. Inkjet printers don't often give that information away, so you might have to go on the web and search and find out. It's really annoying, but they like to give you a lot of blurb about DPI. There is, as I said, there's no one-to-one relationship between one pixel and one dot. It doesn't work like that. And with an inkjet printer, it's a spray. And they give you DPI, but really it's not relevant. You could argue a spray is dots, but it doesn't work quite like that. An inkjet printer definitely doesn't. So anyway, here we are. We're making this image larger. I'm going to have to resample because that's far too low a quality. So back to 300 with resample on. It's going to take a while. It's gone from 39.7 up to 247.2 megabytes, a large file. One thing you've got to be careful of, some print bureaus do have a size restriction, so be careful. There we are. I didn't duplicate the file, which is very bad of me. Resampling. I'm going to use Preserve Details 2.0. Now you can see in this preview here, because it's at 100%, what's going to happen basically. So if I pick something stupid like bilinear, I could see that image getting worse on screen. If I picked nearest neighbor hard edges, you know, it's not awful, but it's not working. Now, if you pick automatic and you're upscaling, it will choose automatically Preserve Details Enlargement. Preserve Details 2.0 is far better. It's really good. And you can play around with the noise slider. Too much with the noise slider and you're taking the detail away. So I usually look very carefully. And if I'm getting rid of some noise, I keep it around 10. But if you can't remember that, automatic will do a reasonable job, but it will pick Preserve Details Enlargement. When you're upscaling, if you're downscaling, it will pick bicubic sharper reduction. And I like to use, when I'm going smaller, bicubic smooth gradients, because when you're downscaling, it will increase the contrast slightly. And if you sharpen it with this, which it will do, almost introduces halos. But I'm waffling there. Let's go back to where we were and go, okay. Everything's fine. It's going to take its time. Look at the size of it. That's a 1-to-1 size. I can pan around now, pressing the space bar, and look, it's a huge image. Command 0 to fit on screen. Look down here. So it's 24 by 19.997 inches. You'll just have to put up with those rounding errors. They will occur. So there you are. What I would probably do with this image, I would definitely sharpen it. And I would probably use unsharp mask. I've been using it 20 years now, since the 1990s, whatever, 20 odd years. And then I would sharpen it up. It's probably too much of a sharpen there. I might bring that down a little bit and bring the threshold down as well, because the threshold is more for skin tones. I'm not playing around too seriously with this. I would do that. Now, it's a TIFF at the moment. If they want it as a JPEG, I'll go File, Save As, pick JPEG. It's going to make its own copy of this image as well, automatically. Save, replace that. I've been playing around before, obviously. 12, maximum, no matte, obviously. And baseline optimize. Save it and send it off to my bureau. By the way, if it was a TIFF and it was going to my own printer, I would flatten it as well before I printed it. That is probably essential as far as I'm concerned. That's it really for making it larger. Now, I didn't duplicate that image, so F12 to revert back to the original, Command 0 to fit on screen. Right, let's go down smaller. I now want a 5 by 7 inch print, which is smaller than what I've got at the moment, because I would, as I said, would get a 14 by 8 inch image at 300 ppi. So what is the first thing to do is to crop to 5 to 7. So 5 or 7 to 5, actually, I want. That's it. So I can swap that around, by the way, just like that. But make sure, you know, if you're using 7 for the width, then when you come to the image size dialog box, you put that in the width, you know, that 7 inch measurement. We've gone through aspect ratio. I'm not bothered about the crop. Okay. Alter option, Command and Control I. I'm on inches. Don't forget you have to put 7 in there, not 5. If I put 5 in, it all goes wrong. So 7 by 5 inches. No rounding errors this time. I will also point out something here as well. Auto resolution. If you're in the graphic design world, you'll probably have seen this before. 150 is seen as a very good quality. Now, lines per inch means dots on a commercial printer, in what halftone dots actually, in 1 inch. So if I put it to good and go okay, I've got a resolution of 225. If I come back and pick best, okay, there's that 300 ppi. So there you go. Most commercial printers are at 300 ppi at their native resolution. I'm sure there's ways of doing draft copies and stuff like that, but this is not the video for that. I'm just saying try and match the native resolution of your printer, which happens to be for commercial printers normally 300 ppi. Do find out, do ask. As I said, I don't like the automatic, and for reduction, I like using bicubic smooth gradients. If you're on automatic, it will pick that one there, bicubic sharper. Off I go. Okay, I didn't duplicate it. Again, I'm sorry about that. And then I would use filter, sharpen, unsharp mask again, because I use it when I'm going to print. Unsharp mask, and then I go through the process. Let's say I've done it. And then I'd either save it as a JPEG, or hand it off as a TIFF, or flatten it, or whatever. So that's it, guys, really. PPI of an image doesn't matter to a screen. The PPI of the screen does. So what you're saying to a printer, I want in 1 linear inch, 300 pixels represented. It's as simple as that. When you come to image size, it's everything really for print and for the screen. What I will point out here, I'm going to F12 on that to get back to where I was. If you're worried about this 72 business, 72 PPI for the screen, and you're confusing people by giving them 300 PPI images, and they're going, it's far too large at 300 PPI, you could take them down this route and explain to them everything. But with the crop tool, you can actually do it here. So if you go to width and height and resolution, let's say I keep it 2048 by 1024, you can put 72 PPI in there. It's not going to change those two measurements. So it's a quick and dirty way. If you don't want to confuse people, you're going to get automatic interpolation or resampling. Do the tick symbol here, come down here, 72 PPI, 2048 by 1024, or whatever size you want to put in there. So that could be a way to stop confusion with people who don't understand that the PPI of an image doesn't matter to the screen, only size matters. That's it, guys. Thanks very much.